Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Battle Cry, the only show on Indian television that gets you up close with Indian warfighters, Indian weapons, and how this country protects itself. The previous episode, viewer, has gone completely viral on social media, on WhatsApp, on veteran forums, and in the Indian weapons development community, because this is the only show that calls a spade and asks the uncomfortable questions. In the last episode, we talked about how India's most ambitious mission mode drone program called Tapas has been de-linked. It's been ignored and shut down by the Indian military in a big blow to indigenous development. But there may be reason now to worry that India's futuristic drone program could also be in jeopardy. Take a look. After Battle Cry exposes India's drone mess, and our previous episode goes viral, national glare on drone projects. Who's responsible for the Tapas fail? Is India's Ghatak program safe? Insiders raise major concerns. Egos, turf battles killing India's drones? Leadership crisis ruining drone projects? The unsparing focus on Battle Cry. The Indian military has shut its doors on the Tapas drone program. We told you all about that in the previous episode of Battle Cry. But the next drone program that the Indian aviation complex is working on is a drone program where there is no plan B and where failure is not an option. Take a look. Battle Cry has forced a national spotlight on India's advanced drone program. The previous episode of this show not only revealed that India's most urgent drone program Tapas has been dropped by the armed forces, but triggered a huge conversation within the military, government and veteran community over just why India, a country that has successfully developed fighter aircraft and helicopters, has simply failed to develop a drone of acceptable quality and performance. Battle Cry has forced a conversation where troubling questions are finally being asked. Is the Tapas failure really about technology or a failure of leadership? Is it really about performance or a total lack of accountability? With the Tapas now stalled and a separate program called the Archer MG becoming the drone of focus, is India's drone program learning lessons or simply lurching from one crisis to the next? More importantly, can the armed forces afford another failure to deliver? Enter Ghatak, a futuristic Indian unmanned aircraft program. One that you've seen several times before right here on Battle Cry. The Ghatak, seen here being tested in miniaturized form, is intended as a fully stealth pilotless aircraft. Shaped unconventionally like a flying wing, crafted to be nearly invisible to radar and other ground sensors, allowing it to penetrate hostile airspace, conduct precision remote-controlled airstrikes, and return undetected or at least untouched. Unlike the Tapas, the Ghatak isn't a mission mode program, which means it isn't time-bound and isn't being developed to achieve a specific current military mission or objective. Also, the Ghatak is not yet a sanctioned government program, since it is still a long way to its intended operational reality. But that doesn't mean it isn't a crucial project that the Indian military doesn't have its eyes on. And it doesn't mean that its makers have a blank check when it comes to time and money. And it certainly doesn't mean that the project has the luxury of being unduly tinkered with. But that is precisely what appears to be happening. And it isn't Battle Cry saying it, but a former project director of the Gatak program itself. Battlecry has learned that a few years ago, the Defence Research and Development Organisation, or DRDO, proposed that the Ghatak project be shifted to one of its own laboratories from the Aeronautical Development Agency, an autonomous consortium of agencies that developed the Tejas fighter and is developing India's future piloted combat aircraft as well. Despite the agency's resistance and the Indian Air Force's warnings against any such tinkering, the Ghatak program was shifted to an aeronautical laboratory under the DRDO, with at least one Indian Air Force estimate suggesting that this move would set the program back by 5 years. On its part, the DRDO could well argue that shifting the Ghatak program to a different laboratory is to optimize development, allowing the original agency to focus on manned or piloted aircraft, while the new home of the Ghatak focuses strictly on unmanned drone programs, including the Tapas. Some would say that those speaking out are merely disgruntled over narrow turf battles and unhealthy inter-laboratory rivalries. But there are those who believe it is precisely this sort of random, midstream tinkering that harms programs, leaving room for accountability holes, lack of continuity, failure to deliver, competing interests, and individual egos and turf wars, all afflictions that have harmed a multiplicity of military programs in the past. With the failure of the Tapas to enthuse the military, so much so that they firmly closed the door on the project, does the future-focused Ghatak become something of a test case? Because even if the Ghatak isn't mission mode or time-bound, its intended missions, that is airstrikes on enemy territory, are hardly beyond the realm of reality. It was only 5 years ago, remember, that the Indian Air Force conducted piloted fighter strikes on Pakistan's Balakot. Will a crucial, futuristic drone program also fall hostage to organizational failures? Or will the Ghatak have a very different flight path and lease of life? And joining us live on Battlecry this week, some of the finest voices when it comes to military projects and aviation, aerospace and defense. Ananthakrishnan M is a well-known aviation and defense journalist. He's based in Bengaluru, where many of these projects do take place. Also with us is Group Captain MJ Augustine Vinod. He's a veteran fighter pilot, a defense analyst, and someone who has looked very deeply at India's projects over many, many years. Anant, I'd like to start with you because it's a series of tweets and posts that you've been putting out that have really kicked up a big storm in the Indian aviation industry and complex. The DRDO community, the previous episode that we did about the Tapas drone, hitting a wall has gone completely viral. You and I both know the big backlash. Even for this episode, we had invited, members of the DRDO community, but each and every one of them declined, which is very, very telling about the impact. We spoke about Tapas in the earlier episode, Anant. Now we're talking about Ghatak. And even in this futuristic program, there appear to be some alarm bells and some warning signs, and not conjecture, not speculation, but a former project director of the Gatak, in fact, the first project director, has actually gone on record to say that he has concerns about the mishandling of this project. What are you hearing, Anant? The main thing that's coming forward is an arbitrary or unexplained or unreasonable shift, midstream shift of this program, the Ghatak, from one laboratory to another for no reason at all.
Yeah, so Shiv, let me straight away come to that point. So the shifting of this program from ADA to ADE, what I understand is that it was done on mutual terms. That means both labs have agreed. And there was a surprise element because we haven't heard in the past any project shifting from one lab to lab, considering the attachment people have with their own programs in DRDO. But now I'm being told that it was done in mutual consent because, ADA is supposed to focus on manned missions.
Right.
And, aeronautical programs, and they have got Mark 1A, they have got the Mark II, they have got the AMCA, TED-BF, all that. So they felt that it will be better if it shifts to ADE. And apparently ADA is playing a mentor role, in the sense, an advisory role for this program. But beyond that, nobody talks anything, because, it is a controversy. And after what the former director, he spoke. So nobody is asking. Even I tried my best. So what I understand is that it's a mutual thing. AD sources say that, perhaps, this is the best thing, because ADA doesn't have much expertise on unmanned platforms.
Okay.
So that is it, what I hear.
Okay, that's what you hear. You say that it was a mutual shift of the project, but there are certain other concerns that have come forward. And when you have, Group Captain Vinod, when you have project directors, choosing to speak out about, very sensitive classified programs, it actually paints a picture of, whether there is a failure of leadership, whether there are ego battles, whether there are turf wars, between laboratories that may be derailing some of these projects, even with the Tapas, which has been, practically closed down, as far as the military is concerned, and it was a mission mode project. You know that very well as, an air warrior. Now you have a futuristic program which is not time bound, but even in that, there are red flags being raised. What do you think, sir?
Good question, Shiv, and good to be on Battle Cry, and since it is watched widely all over the world. I want to be, politically correct and measured while not mincing my words.
Yes.
So, what is important for us to understand is Tapas is for an area where there is no contest. It is for a no contest airspace.
Yes.
So, in a war scenario, Tapas is not going to be in the hot zone at all. Tapas will be on a standoff kind of a role. Standoff role, you need to understand. See, Tapas doesn't do much high speeds, exactly like the other American drones, famous American drones. And Tapas will not be utilized in an area where there is air defense is heavy. In the sense, there are missiles, guns. Even Tapas can't save itself from those kind of weapons. So Tapas is going to be in a role which is going to be kind of a support role or a standoff surveillance role. We have requirement for it as well. So Tapas will fit in that role. But the problem, Shiv, is let's look at why Tejas, the current Tejas, the LCA suffered. You started off with a certain goalpost, and as we move along, you find something better that is coming up technologically, and the operator says, "Okay, I want this also, and I want this also." Now, when you start sort of shifting goalposts, I wouldn't say shifting goalposts, piling on more requirement, and when the maker says, "Okay, I'll be able to do this, I'll be able to do that," without properly giving it a thought, then what happens, Shiv, that it sort of snowballs into you trying to make the Tapas into all in all Alagarajan.
Okay.
Now, when you try to make Tapas all in all Alagarajan, is the time the problem happens, which is what I studied, that Tapas should have gone with a particular operational requirement. Then, as it matures, you keep piling on in a stepped manner. That is as far as Tapas is concerned. But Ghatak, what we saw, that video you put up, is the scaled down version. Eventually, Ghatak is supposed to go to a supersonic speed. So this particular version is not how the aeroplane will behave, which is very important for people to understand, because aerodynamics is something which is totally different in a smaller scale aeroplane and a bigger scale aeroplane. So they don't go by what we are seeing on the screen of Gatak. Gatak eventually will be a manned, unmanned teaming, or it could even be a loyal wingman, as in he will be part of a manned mission, where the manned aeroplane cannot be carrying the weapon. The Gatak will carry the weapon. So Gatak Yes, please go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. I wanted to get the technical aspect that you've explained is very, very valuable to us. Group Captain Vinod, I'll come back to that aspect. I wanted to explore a little bit about, whether these projects are in danger, beyond the technical challenges that are actually there. And that's one of the reasons we hear, and what Anant has also been reporting, why maybe even the Tapas, had to be delinked by the military from the military requirements, which is definitely bad news as far as a program like this is concerned. Anant, the concern now is, Tapas was a mission mode project, which means it is time bound, it is linked to, a current military objective or requirement, and then it did not fail to meet those requirements. The Ghatak is a very different program, Anant. You've been reporting on it also for many years. It is not mission mode, it is not time bound, and yet the missions that the Ghatak will perform in the future are very much realistic missions that we see even today. We had the Balakot airstrikes recently. This kind of capability is something that India definitely needs in the foreseeable future. And with, a project director raising concerns, what is your reading of that, Anant? Because, you have covered these labs for many, many years. Are there ego battles? Are there rivalries? Is there one-upmanship taking place? Because in other countries, such programs are usually bulletproofed against, any such turf battles.
Yeah. So, it is there like in any field. There are issues with DRDO labs. There are, inter-lab, I would say. Don't want to say call it as inter-lab live, rivalries, but there are issues within labs. Nobody will speak about it, but that we know it very well. Now, the issue is that there is definitely some kind of, uneasy calm in, in some of the labs because of, they have been branded as non-performers and, things like that. When it comes to these kind of programs, there is no scope for such substandard kind of leadership. That is something which even we spoke in the last episode. So what we, in terms of this particular technology demonstrator, we're talking about the future RPSA, the remotely piloted strike aircraft Gatak. It has already performed some kind of, it has developed, it has demonstrated some technologies where it is aerodynamic control, the structural health monitoring, like in-flight things, the automatic takeoff and landing, fuel mission simulation, avionics, many things have been demonstrated. Now, from as Group Captain Vinod said, from here to the actual plane, there is some distance. And for that, you need real focused kind of thing. And, and DRDO should also invest in areas like, higher grade carbon fiber, because, this is an area even Tapas suffered because of the overweight issues.
Absolutely.
Are we there? Yeah, are we there on that front? And also the most important thing is the dry Kaveri engine. Right now, it is on a, that 450 kg STFA engine. So these are the areas, plus the program, more than, people will have ego issues, definitely it is there. But for the program to go forward, we are actually celebrating just one technology, one flight saying that we have become fifth nation in the world or whatever. Long way to go. Yeah. And, I personally feel if this program need to definitely survive and, to be a successful one, it should probably get into these DCPP mode.
Yeah.
The development come production partner and AD should only provide the design, get the industry in,
Yes, absolutely. No, you're right. Group Captain Vinod, the capability that the Tapas would have given the military, that capability, you're still able to import some drones. We've seen the, Hermes 900 drone now entering service. We're developing another drone called the Archer NG, which Anant and I talked about in the last episode. But when it comes to the Ghatak, this is technology, sir, that nobody is going to share with you. So as far as the Ghatak is concerned, there is no elbow room. It has to be right the first time. Failure is not an option. Isn't that true, sir?
A, failure is not an option. B, Shiv, is that for Ghatak, nobody is going to hold our hand. And thirdly, even in the civil, even if you're looking at, say, a civil partner to partner with Ghatak-like program, there is none in the world, civil company in the world who have the capability to come anywhere close to what we are aiming to achieve in the Ghatak program. So Gatak program has to be from the ground up ours, A. B, it has to be, I mean, I said this or wrote about it also. We have to have a dedicated project leader or a project head for the Gatak program who will see it through. Even if he becomes or he retires and goes away, he has to still be part of the Gatak program. So this is something which we'll have to be, the government has to take a call. And they have to do it very, very properly.
And I hope they do it very properly. I hope that, at no point of time does Battle Cry cast any aspersions on any lab, on any leader. Our scientists are some of the finest in the world, and we have full faith in them to deliver excellent programs. But they must be bulletproofed against the possibility of arbitrariness, the possibility of scientists raising the red flag. These need to be professionally run, accountability run programs, because this is about national security. This is something where, like Group Captain Vinod said, there is no plan B. Thank you very much, Anant and Group Captain Vinod, for joining me on this edition of Battle Cry. Like I said, the last episode went viral, big talking point. This one promises to as well. Thank you to the both of you.
Thank you, Shiv.
In a huge game-changing infusion of technology to the Indian Navy and very soon for the Indian Army, Israeli-licensed Hermes 900 drones have just been handed over to the Indian military. These are drones far more capable than anything that the Indian military has ever operated before full-time. Take a look at this report by India Today's Manjeet Negi. Capable of staying airborne for 36 hours, capable of carrying at least 4 precision strike weapons on its wings, and capable of providing a long endurance, eye-in-the-sky capability that the Indian military has been longing for. The Israeli Hermes 900 drone has been tried and tested, including extensive use over current operations in Gaza. And now, the Indian Navy has received its very own. Called Drishti 10 Starliner and built in Telangana by the Adani Group using Israeli tech, this will be the first long-endurance drone to be commissioned into the Indian military. Compared to what the Navy currently operates, the new drone will be a serious game changer.
The Drishti 10, true to its name, has seen the light of day in just 10 months post conclusion of the contract. At the outset, my compliments to Adani Defence Systems and Technologies and its team of brilliant and motivated minds for continuing to determinedly develop this sophisticated platform despite challenges posed by their industry partners' preoccupation due to the ongoing conflict in West Asia.
We are taking a giant step towards realizing a vision of strategic sovereignty. The vision of Atmanirbharta has led to embracing of whole-of-nation approach that is allowing us to marshal the nation's resources and capability.
The drone isn't indigenous, but is assembled in India, still a better bet than an outright import. The Indian Navy will receive another of these in months, with both drones to be based in Porbandar, Gujarat, from where they will keep an eye on the Arabian Sea and Western Seaboard. The Indian Army will also receive 2 of these. The Indian military is in the market for over 90 more of this variety of drone, which could either be the same type or a different make. A new era of drone capability in the Indian military has now begun. That's it on Battle Cry. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, India's national security will only be upheld if no human needs to be sent into war and no weapon needs to be fired. Thanks for watching.